Talk about some of the meaningful things that you learned.
There's this whole pervasive notion out there, getting older is equated with becoming undesirable and incapable and doomed to suffering and disease. That's nonsense. And that they now know that 90% of your genes that code for your health are under your control. Avoiding disease, fighting disease, living long is under their control.
Ready to live at the higher vibrations, where peace, love, joy, and good health are the daily standard? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Vibe. And here's your host, Robin Openshaw.
Hey everyone, it's Robin Openshaw. Welcome back to the Vibe Show. I am interviewing today my friend Brian Vaszily. And like me, he's become really interested in aging and how to do it gracefully, how to do it slower. And he's the founder and host of the artofantiaging.com. And he has just done a free summit, and I was one of the 22 speakers on it. And so I invited him to come on the show and talk about what he learned from interviewing 22 health and wellness experts and authors and physicians and asking them the question, what are the 3 little known but most life-changing tips that I've picked up in my research and writing on health and wellness over the many years. So he asked me that question, and I wanted to ask him and give you one last chance to join his summit. If you want to check it out, it's at greensmoothiegirl.com/Brian, BRIAN. I just decided to make that link really short and easy, because the name of his summit is, it would be a long URL, right? The Little Known Life-Changing Health Summit. So if you want to jump in and get that summit, or at least listen to the replay weekend where you can listen to it for free, that's about to happen on January 29th as we launch this episode. It's at greensmoothiegirl.com/Brian. So Brian Vaszily, welcome to the Vibe Show.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So you've been working really hard, interviewing lots and lots and lots of people on the subject of how to age better, how to age slower. What's your take on aging? Everyone's obsessed with it. I personally have started to be obsessed with it since I turned 50, almost 3 years ago. But so I wasn't paying any attention to that content until probably about age 50. What makes you so interested in it? What's your story with aging?
Well, it's a good question. And first of all, I'm right behind you in terms of years. Actually, really right now on the verge of turning 50. So it's actually quite, a long story that I'm going to really try to sum up for you in terms of what put me on this path. So long story short, I had what people may call a particularly challenging first half of life, where I grew up in a really rough neighborhood in Chicago and lost friends to gangs. And I had a dad who was a good man until he became severely alcoholic and quite abusive. And what kept me on my feet, and actually what kept me alive, is strong women in my life. I have a saint of a mother who I still don't know how she did all that she did. I have a saint of a sister. I had some saints of teachers who all happened to be females, and they all just kept me going in life, I guess we'll say. And again, in some cases alive, and I went through all kinds of other stuff. Very poor, very young father, lost a house in the past and went through bankruptcy, all kinds of stuff, but I am thriving today. So I will put that note in there. And again, this is so largely due to the women in my life. And today I have a wonderful wife. So where I'm going with this is that I've been in natural health for well over 20 years now. And, I've worked with and helped many of the best out there that people know. Helped to build Mercola.com when nobody knew who he was, helped Dr. Mark Hyman, many others. Maybe a couple years ago, I was, kind of at that point in life where there was the 2 paths. And I'm like, I could do a lot in a lot of different ways, but what do I really feel strongly about, Robin? And, it was really already bothering me that I'm watching my wife, who's in her 40s, my mother, who's in her 70s, my sister, who's in her 50s, these really powerful women in my life struggle with what you just said. The fact that there's this whole pervasive notion out there that it's all downhill from here, as the saying goes, and that, getting older is equated with becoming undesirable and incapable and doomed to suffering and disease. And I'm like, you know what? That just so went against what I'd seen over the years in natural health, in personal growth too, for that matter. I'm like, that's nonsense. And it hurt me, frankly, to see these powerful women in my life going downhill almost, in a sense, in some ways, because of this nonsense myth. So I'm like, you know what? There's only one thing I can do here. I have access to all of these amazing experts, all of these, doctors and researchers in integrative health and natural health and folks like you. And I said, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to put this out there as much as I can to let people who, especially, late 30s and beyond, and 40s and 50s and 60s and beyond, know and show them here there are answers, and these in fact can and should be the best years of your life. And here's proof. Here's how to do it. So that's the art of anti-aging. And this summit that you referenced, that yes, I've been overwhelmingly working hard on this thing with passion. So almost never feels like work. Let me put it that way. Anyway, it's like the pinnacle of this mission, because I'm able to bring these 22 top, longevity and anti-aging doctors and researchers, just really brilliant people, to the forefront, each from some different areas of expertise, to give their answers, to the big question that I ask. And I asked you that big question, so you know what that is, but I can review that question if you want.
Yeah, the question was to tell you the top 3 things that I know from my research in health and wellness as one of the many authors, researchers, and physicians that you interviewed. What are the 3 things that you wish everybody knew, but very, very few did? So I had fun with that question. And so I really just wanted to have you on today to pick your brain a little bit about what you learned in the deep dive with 22 health and wellness experts. So a lot of people that you interviewed are colleagues and friends of mine as well. And probably half of them we've had on this show on a specific subject, but I know that you interviewed them on subjects I haven't even scratched the surface of with them. So just start wherever you want to. Talk about some of the meaningful things that you learned, having just come out of this extensive interviewing of some amazing people.
Right. Well, true compliments to you. You were one of my favorite interviews, by the way. But I imagine I don't need to review what we discussed, because I'm sure everyone listening has heard your brilliance before. So let me go to, let's see, the very first one that actually pops to mind was Dr. David Perlmutter. Now he's, world-renowned neurologist. Most people know his book, Brain, what is it called? Grain Brain, which is like sold a gazillion copies. And that was a profound conversation with David Perlmutter. He revealed that 90% of your genes, they now know that 90% of your genes that code for your health are under your control. Now, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, it would have, there wasn't even this notion that we can control our genes, so to speak. We thought we're doomed to our genetic destiny, or praised by it in some cases. But as time has gone on, it became known, and this is kind of the field of epigenetics, that, wait a minute, we do have some control. We can express different genes in different ways. And then as time continues to go on here, according to Dr. Perlmutter, we're finding more and more that we have this tremendous control. Well, he said, we now know, he said even a couple of years ago, he was saying 70%. Now he's saying 90% of your genes are under your control. So that's just a monumental fact right there that kind of overrides the entire summit, is that so much more than most people realize when it comes to how they look, how they feel right now, avoiding disease, fighting disease, living long is under their control, Robin.
It's such an important topic, and I'm sure you touched on that with a number of your speakers, because it's fairly new to realize that our genes express They're not just sitting there doing bad or good things for us. They're expressing based on the environment we put them in. Everything from the thoughts that we think and the amount of time we spend, in low vibration emotions and thoughts to the foods we eat and much more. So, what else? Tell me more.
Well, along these very lines, different types of hormesis, I'll define that in a moment for those who may not know what it is, but it came up in so many different ways throughout this entire summit. And this is basically the idea that not all stress is bad. Now, certainly chronic stress where it's overwhelming, can be devastating for people. But there is a certain amount of stress in life in different ways that's actually good. In fact, that's what working out is. When you exercise, you're technically, breaking down your muscles so that they build back, twice as solid, twice as strong. So it goes with so many other aspects of our health. For instance, good friend of mine, and I believe you have had Ocean Robbins on before. He in his classic, humble ocean way brought up taking cold showers and how we're finding out that this is increasingly important for our health is exposing ourselves briefly, to this uncomfortable cold temperatures. Others did bring up the opposite, heat therapy and how that's important. So what this in essence does is it shocks our body. It doesn't let our body get complacent, to use my own words here. And it can definitely boost your immune system in so many ways. So, I found that quite, interesting and rather remarkable. So something as simple as when you're in the shower, maybe for 15, you might want to start off kind of slow here, but 10, 15, 20 seconds, turning that knob all the way to the cold and just standing there and enduring it can actually be really good for you. And, I live in a cold weather climate, and I never found a good reason, from a health perspective until I started thinking about that. And I'm like, hey, maybe that's a benefit, to those on the beautiful West Coast or in Florida. One thing I don't have to be jealous about is the fact that, stepping outside in this cold weather is a very similar thing. And, even people who, well, I'm pushing it a little here, obviously, but, taking a polar plunge in a lake or something like that. But they do this, Robin. They do this in countries, like Norway and Finland. Apparently, they've known this for years, and the rest of the world, the scientific world, is just now qualifying how beneficial it is, both the heat and the cold.
Yeah. And I was just talking to Joe Mercola last week on the phone, and he was showing me a medical journal article about how the thing most linked to anti-aging is heat shock proteins. So it was good news for the fact that I started a sauna company last year. It makes our saunas that much more powerful of a anti-aging tool to have one in your house. What'd you learn from a breast surgeon?
Well, she's amazing. That's one of those interviews where we could have kept going and going and going. Dr. Christy Funk, a breast surgeon to all kinds of celebrities, I believe, Angelina Jolie and others, and just a wonderful human being, first of all. And, another big one, and again, along very similar lines here, 87% of all women diagnosed with breast cancer don't have a single first-degree relative who had it. Again, there's this prevailing notion still out there, that if, your mother or your grandmother had it, you're going to get it. On the flip side, if they didn't, you won't. And, what Dr. Funk very clearly explained in that great interview was, no, 87% of the cases are not about, family members, et cetera. What it has everything to do with is, of course, your choices, things that people do and don't do in their life. And she covered all kinds of ground on what to do and not do. Now, I know a lot of people, like the occasional alcoholic drink, and the occasional one could be okay, but she surprised me, I guess I'll say, by noting that just one drink a day increases a woman's risk of getting breast cancer by 10%. 3 a day by 40%. So, that was just one of the shocking facts that kind of stood out to me. So it seems pretty wise to, limit your alcohol intake. And she covered, I know she's been on your show before here, and she talks about boulders versus pebbles. And it really makes sense that the idea in short is things like alcohol she includes in that equation. Of course, your diet, I'm sure I'm going to miss one here, exercise, these are the big boulders. And if you're not addressing these, what you do with the pebbles don't matter so much. Now, the pebbles are, things like getting toxins, reducing them in the home. And she's not saying they don't matter. They matter tremendously, but there's some really bigs that you've got to address first and foremost, in other words. So, profound interview there. I also had Dr. David Sinclair. Now he's David Sinclair, PhD. So that's how he's a doctor. And he is a Harvard longevity researcher. He's at Harvard Medical School. A few years back, Time Magazine named him one of the world's 100 most influential people. And he's kind of a friend. And it's actually the very first interview in the entire summit. I'm glad, I interviewed him first, because it was this great overview interview for everything to come. Kind of just, really worked out great in that regard. Now, David basically talked about how you do turn your longevity genes are real. I mean, there's really longevity genes, and you can do things to turn them on, and you can make mistakes, I guess we'll say, Robin, that turn them off. And one big mistake that he pointed out that a lot of people make, and especially as you get older, is eating too much meat. It really seems to me, based on this, entire summit collectively, that when it comes to meat, I know it's a super controversial topic, but it does seem the less the better, especially when you're older. So 40s matters, 50s it matters even more, 60s it matters even more to really reduce the meat intake. Why? Well, there's methionine is an amino acid, and it's heavy duty in meat. It's necessary. It's essential to us. However, in very limited quantities the older you get, because it's one of these things, this amino acid methionine, that turns off people's longevity genes. So it's actually really beneficial if you're a young man or woman and hitting the gym and wanting to build muscle, for example. So in that case, it could be good for you, but the very same reason it's good for growing, it's kind of telling the body, hey, we're doing good just by eating meat. We're doing good. We don't need to, work on longevity. Now I'm putting it in my layman's terms, and there's a little more science behind that. But, so you're constantly putting these things in or not, into your body, your choices. And it has everything to do with, what both Dr. David Perlmutter and David Sinclair are making a very similar point in a different way, which is, that it influences how long and how well you live. It was just really profound stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. My colleague, I won't mention his name, but he's one of your speakers and a longtime friend of mine. And he's kind of in the last year decided that people should actually eat quite a bit of meat. So he and I have been going back and forth about it, and he gave me his references, and I promised him I would read them all. So I've been reading through them all in the last 2 weeks, and he had two people. I think Alex Leaf is one of them and Chris Masterjohn is the other. And they both reference the same opinion or same conclusion based on looking at the same data, that eating high protein is totally fine as a cancer preventative. But then once you get cancer, then they acknowledge, yes, and I'm referring here to like the China study, the Oxford Cornell project, the work overseen by Colin Campbell, PhD from Cornell, that showed that a low protein diet is cancer preventative and the best diet to get well from cancer as well. And these two guys, both of them in separate interviews, told my colleague and yours, well, a high protein diet is just fine for cancer prevention, but after you get cancer, then you should eat a low protein diet. And here's the thing I want to point out about that makes that just patently false, is that we all have cancer. We all have cancer. We all have cancerous growths. If we got a really detailed, whatever, CT scan that could go really granular into our various organs and tissues, all of us have cancerous growth. It's a matter of how much we have. Therefore, it makes no sense whatsoever that you should eat a high meat diet all the way until you get cancer. And then clearly it has been well established that, you know, a lot of juicing, a lot of vegetables, very, very little animal protein, if any, is right for getting well from cancer, for starving that cancer out. It makes no sense when you consider the fact that we actually all have cancer. So if anybody hears that, it seems to be a new trend. Oh, eat your standard American diet of 20% to 35% animal products, just fine. But then after cancer, give it up. You know, the only thing about when you get cancer is that that's when it was diagnosed. That doesn't mean you didn't have it. So
it was expressed in other words, but it's, what you are saying makes complete sense. And what I heard, again, over the course of 22 different experts, there's an inkling of a case to be made that maybe, animal proteins are, okay. I wouldn't even say necessary, but okay if you're young and in a growing body, in a kid. But my goodness, I tell you, Robin, what I heard over the course of this is that if you are, let's just say, over 40, you really actually want to think twice about, consuming too much, maybe if any, animal-based proteins, especially today, of course. And I'm not even talking about the fact that, they're full of antibiotics and all this other stuff. I just mean in general. So,
yeah. If anything, many of us are getting probably too much protein. There is a case, some of your experts on the show, I don't know if you got into that on your summit. There's a case to be made that people 65 and older need higher amounts of protein, but that doesn't necessarily translate to must eat more animal products, right? But I know that Ocean's father, John, now eats fish. He said that when I interviewed him, decades of being a vegan, and now he'll eat a little bit of wild caught fish. Anybody you missed? I mean, I know there's 22 people, you didn't cover them all.
I really am. I'm, so excited about what came out of that. I knew it would, but when it happens and, these interviews, it's just astounding. It was remarkable. Talk about, advocating for plants, Dr. Joel Furman, man, there was, maybe you know this, but I didn't know this, so we all know cruciferous veggies are like saints. They're kind of the saints of the vegetable world. They can be amazing for you, and alliums too, like onions and garlic. He revealed just this very simple, research-based, we're talking Joel Furman here, Eat to Live guy, that how so many people are preparing them is dramatically reducing, if not flat out eliminating, their cancer fighting power. And it kind of blew my mind.
What are people doing to prepare those?
He said he was doing it himself wrong for a long time. They're cooking them whole. And he said, because of how these compounds are, I forget the word here, organosulfates, I believe it was, but different compounds in these veggies, the smartest, the healthiest way to release their cancer fighting power, we'll put it in my layman's terms here, is you must cut them up, put them in a, blender or a mixer that works too. So if you use them in smoothies, for example, you're doing a good thing there, especially if you're doing it raw. You can cook them, but you want to cut them up first, long story short. So this very simple piece of knowledge, and it was just like, boom, mind blowing. And so many things like that came out. Do you know, I think you've had Razzie Berry on this show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Razzie's a good friend, and she always comes out with so many amazing little facts. And so if I'm challenging her, her to reveal her 3 biggest little knowns, well, that I knew was in for something interesting with Razzie. And let's see, where do I focus on that one? Because it was really wonderful interview. But relaxation, she just gave her usual research substantiated backing that relaxation in so many ways has equivalent benefits as working out. And a lot of people, might like to hear that first of all, but a lot of people, that doesn't necessarily mean they're really relaxing in life. It boosts heart health. It lowers inflammation levels in the body. So it was just, great to hear that in the first place, Rob. And on the other hand, again, this doesn't necessarily mean vegging out in front of the television set or something like that. It means really relaxing your mind and your body. It doesn't even necessarily have to mean meditation, but just really feeling chilled out, so to speak, can be remarkably good for you. And Razzie and I were talking, and a lot of people downplay that. She even talked about, the importance of daydreaming in relation, for example, and just letting yourself be. Is so crucial. Not having a thing to do in the back of your mind, or having a remote control in your hand, or what am I going to watch next, or flipping through a phone, but just chilling out. There is research, and quite a bit, showing that this is extremely important for you. So I found that really interesting too.
Well, I'm excited to jump in myself and listen to what everybody has to say on your summit. The summit, everyone, is called the Little Known Life-Changing Health Summit. And that's because Brian asked each of us, what are 3 little known things that you've learned in your journey as a human being and as a health and wellness researcher and author that will really change people's lives? If you boiled it down to 3 things you wish people knew, what are they? And so I enjoyed answering that question. I enjoyed my own talk. One thing that I'll just give you as a little tidbit is one of the things I talked about, and that's because Brian wanted me to, is I said, you know what, Brian, I really like to talk to people about their dental work and what kind of dentist they choose and what kind of practices and materials and procedures they allow in their mouth. I really like people to know that they have options, they have alternatives, and that those materials and those procedures in their mouth could be at the root of why they're sick. And so we talked about that. I was like, that might seem strange. And he's like, no. I want to talk about that. Let's go there. He also wanted to make sure that, each of us talked about things that were, sort of unique and distinct from the others so that we all aren't talking about epigenetics or whatever. And so I'm excited for it to come out, the Little Known Life-Changing Health Summit. Just to make it easy for you, we set it up as greensmoothiegirl.com/Brian. And his name is spelled Brian, Brian, the easy way. So greensmoothiegirl.com/Brian. Tell them about Replay Weekend, because when we launch this episode, Brian, I think it'll be just in time for people to get in on your Replay Weekend. Tell them that and anywhere else they can learn more about you and your work.
Yeah, well, it's a great time, to be launching this talk we're having, which I so appreciate, by the way, because while the summit has concluded, exclusive to Robin Openshaw and everyone listening, because I haven't told, anybody else, not the rest of the world, this yet, but we indeed are going to have a Replay Weekend. And that starts on Friday and it goes through Sunday. And what that basically means is you go to greensmoothiegirl.com/Brian, I believe it is, Brian, not the Brian with a Y, the Brian with an I. And you could sign up free there. Just takes a moment and you're in, and you can listen to any and all of it starting on Friday. And if that doesn't work for you, it's a lot. I mean, you're talking 22 interviews, each about an hour each, of really profound information. So if you're the type of person who prefers to listen on your own time, on your own schedule, you're certainly going to want to listen to these interviews multiple times, certain ones of them, including with Robin for sure. Then, the what I call the Summit Empowerment Package is available as well. And there's a big early bird discount right now, which will end at the end of Replay Weekend. So you can also go and take a look at that, and you get tons of really great bonuses, and tons in this case equals 22 different bonuses. It really is worth over $1,000. And take a look at the bonuses. These are not shoddy bonuses. One of them, we talked about Ocean. One of them is complete access to his 2019 Food Revolution Summit. So you're getting an additional, I think it was 24 speakers just, from his summit last year, access to the recordings and transcripts there, and all of his bonuses too. So I can go on, but the point is, it's a really good time if you're, again, the type of person who wants to own all this, but it's also there, for free this weekend. So really, really, I think you're going to love it. As you could tell, I'm excited about it because it was amazing. So thank you, Robin.
Of course. Thanks for coming on my show, Brian, and good luck with the summit. I'm excited.